Well, with you as someone, I've been here on and off most of the day, but like you, as someone who longs for peace, stuck in this culture of war and empire, I feel like a pelican in the Gulf oil slick. I think we're all pelicans stuck in the American culture of oil and war, and we don't know it. Friends, our violence is for my little 2 cents tonight on our little panel, my proposal is we have to resist our war president, the Obama administration, and everything in the country and within us which leads us deeper into war, greed, fear, empire, and global destruction. We've been talking about that. But for me, the other deeper questions are, how do we be true to our core spiritual traditions? How do you live the spiritual life in a world of death, destruction, and empire, without our spirituality of love and peace and generosity, as Joan was saying, being just a cover for maintaining the unjust status quo? How can we be nonviolent people in a world, a moment of unparalleled violence? How do we be human in such an inhuman time? I think the answers, I look to Gandhi, Dorothy Day, Dr. King, all our spiritual traditions are the same. Steadfast, nonviolent resistance to the Obama administration and everything in our country and within us that leads us deeper to war, greed, fear, empire, and destruction. Friends, have you been studying? Do you know what I've been working on? That the Obama administration has done more for nuclear weapons than anyone since Ronald Reagan in 1983. Obama is the hero of Los Alamos, the birthplace of the bomb, the hellhole near where I live in New Mexico. As we approach the 65th anniversary of Hiroshima, Obama's Los Alamos, I don't say George W. Bush's, Obama's Los Alamos is booming. He's building a state-of-the-art plutonium bomb factory called the Chemical and Metallurgy Research Replacement Facility, the CMRR, which we in New Mexico are studying, which will enable Los Alamos to make bigger, better new plutonium pits, the heart of the nuclear bomb, in ways Bush could never dream of. And he's building 2 new state-of-the-art uranium bomb factories, Kansas City and Oak Ridge. Last year in Prague, he says, the future is a nuclear-free world. Alas, it won't happen in our lifetimes. We're saying, as we mark the 65th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, at this conference and as we go forward, not only will the abolition of nuclear weapons happen in our lifetime, it needs to happen now. What do you think of that? We've got to say that. I always invoke what Martin Luther King said the night before our government killed him. The choice is no longer violence or nonviolence. It's nonviolence or non-existence. What do? I suggest 3 steps, which I've been hearing all day long too. First, to dig deeper in our own hearts and our own spiritual traditions and communities to uncover and unleash the inner springs of contemplative nonviolence, that we can become personally and interpersonally more and more nonviolent, that we can transform our religious traditions into communities of contemplative nonviolence, and from there stand up and engage in public active nonviolent resistance, as we will do Sunday at the White House. As spiritual progressives, we are the ones who are always doing our inner work of the journey of a disarmed heart, that we can be instruments of the true politically disarming love that is a threat to empire and nuclear weapons. And we practice prayerful, active, personal nonviolence and peaceful living, as well as engaging in nonviolent resistance. For me personally, sharing here with you for a minute, that means, my friends and I are working now to organize to go to Los Alamos for the Hiroshima anniversary, as we've been doing for years, by the hundreds, taking over the whole town, taking up the book of Jonah, sitting down in sackcloth and ashes in strict silence to repent of the mortal sin of war and nuclear weapons and beg the God of peace for the gift of peace and nuclear disarmament. And then in September, I will be going with Kathy Kelly and my friends to Las Vegas, Nevada, and we will stand trial and face 6 months in prison for last year daring to walk under the Creech Air Force Base, the headquarters of the evil drones. And we just offered roses and were arrested, and now the government is pressing full charges against us. With you, I'm trying to say I'm interested in this path of personal peace and public peacemaking. The good news, Dr. King says, is we share a common ground. He called it, from Gandhi, nonviolence, the path we walk in a world of permanent war. And I like to come to these gatherings because I think the future is this interfaith nonviolence, as we reach out across these religious lines, building an interfaith movement that can walk this shared path of nonviolence together, that we can reclaim our humanity, our spiritual traditions, and our future for peace, to practice nonviolence within, to resist nonviolently the institutions of violence, and to cultivate seeds of love and peace and caring, that we can one day, or future generations one day, will reap a harvest of nonviolence. Second, that we can dig deeper again within our hearts and in our spiritual traditions, in our communities, as we've been doing today, to reclaim prophetic nonviolence. That we can help one another stand up publicly and speak out prophetically and say together, we want an immediate end to these evil wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, and end all the wars and greed that's destroying us, and to speak out on behalf of a more peaceful, just world. What do you think of that? That's what we got to do, to be all speaking, to build a prophetic movement. Third, finally, my little 2 cents, I quote our friend, my teacher, Howard Zinn, who said so beautifully, so many wise sayings. We need to choose to spend our lives on the side of hope. We have a choice. That means in the hopeful struggle for justice and peace. Howard taught us about the first network of spiritual progressives, the abolitionists, who gave their lives for an impossible dream. Forgive me if you heard me say this before, I always talk about them. They're announcing the abolition of slavery and the coming of a new world of equality. That's just ridiculous. They're mocked, marginalized, ignored, persecuted, jailed, threatened, and they give their lives for this vision and make it come true. They are our ancestors. We are their heirs. We are new abolitionists who are standing up publicly for the rest of our lives, way beyond Obama and what the future holds. And we are announcing the abolition of war itself, and poverty and executions and nuclear weapons and global destruction. And people are going to say, you're crazy. And we're going to say, no. The future is a new world of nonviolence. What do you think of that? That's what we got to say. That means, Howard Zinn says, whether you like it or not, we're going to choose to live on the side of hope. Daniel Berrigan, my friend and teacher, says to be hopeful, you have to do hopeful things. Howard said he spent his whole life studying the movements of social change in our history. And I said this the last time I was here because it's still shocking to me. He came to the conclusion after 30 years, imagine, the abolitionists, the suffragists, labor movement, civil rights movement, anti-war movement, I mean, just incredible. All of the movements, the beginning, the middle, right to the very end, were hopeless, hopeless, hopeless. I found that very consoling. And then there was this breakthrough of hope. Why? How did it happen? That was Howard Zinn's question. And he concluded historically it happened because ordinary people like us refused to give up. They kept at it, doing every day something that they could do for justice and peace, even though there was no evidence that they were making a difference or would ever make a difference. And so the movement kept moving and the breakthrough happened. Our job is to keep at it, not to give up, not to give in, not to go away, not to be afraid, not to despair, not to be silent, but to keep on pursuing that vision of a new world of nonviolence, to keep on building the grassroots movements for justice and peace, and together to keep walking that spiritual path of love and caring. Thanks for listening. God bless you.